Hey, good morning. Welcome to the CGS Biblecast. So glad that you joined us this morning. We're going to be in Judges chapter 7 today. So if you wouldn't mind, flip over there or just prepare your mind to hear about Gideon today. So here we are, Gideon. A good, really good story. I love the story of Gideon. Here, Israel is in a really tight spot. They were in the middle of this terrible famine. The food they did have was subject to raiders. They literally had to raise livestock and prepare food in hiding. Gideon, that's where we find him. He's hiding, laying low in a wine press, threshing wheat when an angel of the Lord appeared to him, calling him a great man of great valor. So a wine press would have not been a place for threshing of wheat. He's there because he's terrified and there's some cover. When you thresh wheat, you had this like pitchfork thing and you would scoop the wheat and throw it in the air, and the wind would blow away all the chaff or whatever, and then the good stuff, the wheat, would fall down and be left below. And so if doing this in a closed and split in space would give you serious allergy issues, which springtime, the struggle is real, if you know what I mean. So yeah. Here we find Gideon in a wine press, and he gets called great man of valor. So he's thinking, what in the world are you talking about? He's not a decorated soldier. He's not a man who secured major victories for Israel. He's just ordinary, just like, oh my gosh, sorry about that. He's just an ordinary man just like us, and God wanted to use him in a really mighty way to defeat the nation's biggest threat, the Midianite army of approximately 135,000 soldiers. At first, Gideon couldn't wrap his mind around what God is asking him to do here. He gave excuses, and in doubt, God asked him. He asked God for two signs to prove that he was really the man for the job. God, he's like, okay, well, that's fine. So Gideon gathered 32,000 men to aid him in this rather daunting task. But God said, you still have too many men. You got too many here. So tell some of them who are afraid to go home. So he's like, all right, guys, if you're afraid to go against all these men, you need to leave now because you're not supposed to be with us. So 10,000 soldiers get up and leave. God says, all right, that's good. Thank you for obeying, but you still have too many men. And if this victory is going to belong to me, you've got to do it with less men. So God had this plan to whittle it down. He has them drink in a certain way, and it's kind of interesting. You should read it if you haven't. But the end result is there's only 300 men remaining. So as promised, God provides, and he's with them in battle, and armed with only torches and glass jars and ram's horns, they overcame this massive Midianite army because God was in the fight. We'll read that today. This is chapter 7, verse 7. Skipping through, it says, the Lord told Gideon, with these 300 men, I will rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home. So he's like, okay, if you're sure. Then he divided the 300 men into three groups and gave each man a ram's horn and a clay jar with a torch in it. Okay. If I am one of these soldiers, I'm thinking, what are you doing? What in the world could you possibly be doing? And are you really hearing from God? Because I'm not hearing from God that I need to be doing this. So it would take a lot to trust Gideon and a lot to trust the Lord in this. Because if all I had was a clay jar and a trumpet or something, I think I would be pretty afraid. Skipping down, verse 20 says, then all three groups, they've surrounded the enemies in camp, and suddenly they blew the ram's horn, broke their clay jars. All three groups blew their horns and broke their jars. They held the blazing torches in their left hand and the horns in their right hands, and they shouted, a sword for the Lord and Gideon. Each man stood at his position around the camp and watched all the Midianites rush around in panic, shouting as they ran to escape. When the 300 Israelites blew the ram's horns, the Lord caused the warriors in camp to fight against each other with their swords. Basically, they all end up killing each other, scattering, and it's just taken care of. God just said, I'm in this battle. You don't have to be afraid because I'm here. So that's what's so critical for us to remember. No matter what we're facing, God fights with us when we're willing to abide in him and let him be in control. We too are like mighty people of valor when we believe that there's nothing we can't overcome as long as we're willing to let God be the one in the battle. When we try to go in and take care of everything ourselves and end up making it worse most of the time, we are limited in our capabilities. But when we let God in the battle and go to battle for us, anything is possible. So whatever you're facing today, remember that God is in the battle. He is in control. And when we surrender to that, man, God, he's got everything. He's got it under control. Trust him with that and be blessed today.